How is everyone doing? Welcome back to the Banker Next Door. I am your host, Dr. Joe Berquist. Well, happy 4th of July to everyone out there. This is our 2025 4th of July special, and I'm so glad that everybody was just take a few minutes out of your holiday here to spend with me. I thought I found a great topic today to fit truly in the patriotic nature of the 4th of July, and that is I wanted to bring everyone a book review, economics, of course, on the absolutely all-time classic, The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. Now, this book has been published 1,000 times over with 1,000 different covers. This version was a version I got many years ago, actually from Barnes and Noble, which I'm going to go over here when we get into the presentation in just a second. But I thought this was a great conversation. Adam Smith, obviously, this became the cornerstone of modern day economics. It became the driving influence of what ultimately is capitalism. Tremendous influence on our founding fathers, and literally came along, as we'll see in a minute here, at the absolute the timing is just too incredible that he would come out with this book in 1776, and it basically coincided right along with the Declaration of Independence and America's war for freedom for Britain, and just the kind of revolutionary change that was going, not only through America but through the world at that particular moment. So it's just absolutely incredible. Just the timing of all this is amazing. So, but like I said, let's get into the book real quick. So this is The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. And we're going to go into just some of the details. So Adam Smith wrote this book, as we'll see, in 1776. The version I have is published by Barnes & Noble Publishing, but obviously a lot of different people have published this book over the years. The version I have, 610 pages. And it's actually, so it's very interesting. It's one printing, but it's actually 5 books contained in here. And that's why it's actually 610 pages. And some of the printings are actually much longer than that. Some of the printings can actually be as high as like 800 or 900 pages. And the purpose here, basically considered the cornerstone of modern economics, shaping capitalism and policy worldwide. So let's get into a little bit about Adam Smith. So Adam Smith was born in 1723 in Kirkcaldy, Scotland. He studied at Glasgow and Oxford universities. He was a professor of moral philosophy. He wrote The Theory of Moral Sentiments in 1759 on human behavior. He traveled throughout Europe. He met Enlightenment thinkers like Voltaire, who dramatically influenced his ultimate economic ideas. Now, The Wealth of Nations. Let's give a little context here for 1776. So the book was published in March 9th of 1776 during the American Revolution and Enlightenment fervor. Publication during global upheaval amplified its reach, spreading Enlightenment ideals. It coincided with the Declaration of Independence, reflecting shared ideals of liberty and self-governance. Britain's mercantilist policies sparked debates on trade. Smith's, however, ideas were free market ideas, offered a radical alternative, which challenged Britain's economic dominance, offering a blueprint for a free nation's prosperity. This book represents the synergies around 1776's not only political but economic revolutions as well. As 1776 marked a turning point, Smith's ideas complemented America's fight for independence. Now, how is the book structured? So like I said, the book is actually 5 books across 2 volumes that gets put into one print. So book 1 is all about labor and wages. Book 2 is about capital and investment. And then books 3 through 5 are about economic history, trade, and government roles. The book is, as we'll see here when we get into some of the critiques, but the book is dense but accessible, blending theory, history, and policy critique. Books 1 through 5 explore how nations generate wealth through division of labor, free markets, and individual self-interest. Considered the cornerstone, again, of modern economics, shaping capitalism and policy worldwide. Okay, so yeah, okay. Now, influence on capitalism. So basically, this book laid the intellectual foundation for capitalism by advocating free trade and competition. It challenged mercantilism, which was basically the economy of Great Britain, which favored state-controlled trade and tariffs. This inspired what is known as laissez-faire economics, influencing thinkers like David Ricardo and John Stuart Mills. Impact on the American economy. So this book also influenced founding fathers like Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson, shaping ultimately U.S. trade policies. Free market principles underpinned America's industrial growth and westward expansion. Smith's ideas formed debates on tariffs and federal economic roles that are still relevant today. Yes, we are still debating a lot of these things today. And I just want to put a note on tariffs. Tariffs were incredibly useful tools for hundreds of years in America. George Washington used them. Thomas Jefferson, James Madison. Many presidents have used it over a 200-year period. It's only been in the last 30 or 40 some odd years that the word tariffs had become this dirty word in American media. But the largest revenue source for America for almost 200 years was tariffs until 1913, when we got income tax and we got the Federal Reserve. Then things basically started to change. Up until that point, up until about 1900, for 125 years, I mean, tariffs were major driving revenue of the economy. Now, and again, everybody, we always try to promote the idea of free market, right? Free market trade. However, I think a lot of very smart people, a lot of our best presidents understood that free market, it sounds great in theory. In reality, not so much. You have to use tariffs to protect certain industries in your economy. It's a defensive measure a lot of times. It's not that you want to do it, it's just you have to do it, because why? Another country is not looking to do free trade. They're looking to, undercut you, or muscle in on one of your maybe one of the niches in your economy, if you will. So again, but again, this debate about free trade and tariffs, like I said, it roils on into today. But it also shows you the staying power of this book, and why this book, almost 250 years later, is still as relevant today as the day it was published. Strengths of the book. So the book is visionary. It introduced concepts still central to economics today. It's comprehensive. It blends theory, history, and practical policy. It has universal appeal, relevant across eras, praised by economists and policymakers. Many people consider it to be the Bible of economics. The books have timeless brilliance that align with American values of innovation. I know you've heard all this somewhere before. Stay with me. Okay, so what are the weaknesses of the book? The length and density. Obviously, yeah, you can see, yeah, it's obviously 600 plus pages. Yeah, it's a dense book. I think this might be the bigger thing. The 18th century references feel distant. Yes, if you're reading some of the books, some of the examples and stories are used in the book, again, they're not going to be companies or individuals that you're going to be familiar with, and you might have to take some time to go back and reference some of these things to get a better understanding of some of the characters and companies and countries involved at those time periods, in order to really understand what Adam Smith is talking about in some of the stories that he tells and some of the examples that he gives. And I think that, to me, is probably the more difficult thing about the book. Not so much its length, but it is a dense book, like in terms of its verbiage, and how much is on like a single page. And now here's the other critique. I put this in here. Not as limited on social issues, doesn't fully address inequality and labor exploitations. Now, I think those things are very much up for debate, and I'll get back to those. To keep those in mind, because I'm going to get back to them in a minute. All right. The long-term influence of the book. Well, it shaped U.S. policies like free trade and limited government intervention. It inspired global capitalism, from the Industrial Revolution to modern markets. Debated today in contexts like globalization, deregulation, and wealth inequality. So critical reception and modern relevance. So initially praised by intellectuals, the book basically sold out first editions in months. The first few months it was printed, it totally sold out. Again, initially praised by intellectuals. I think it's still praised today by intellectuals. Retains modern acclaim. Yes, absolutely. Some critique its verbosity, but its influence is undisputed. Themes of freedom, self-reliance, and prosperity resonate with the 4th of July spirit, relevant to debates on trade, taxes, and government roles in 2025's economy. It warns of, wait for it, monopolies and cronyism, challenges still facing American capitalism today. And I would basically say, that when Smith was writing this book, when you talk about inequalities and you talk about, labor, labor exploitation. I would say that those are not elements of capitalism, but elements of crony capitalism. Crony capitalism is something that has dramatically infected our country and is responsible for all of the corruption and a lot of the crazy stuff that we see today in, not only economics, but politics, mostly politics. But yeah, this idea of crony capitalism, of you get in the wealth club and then you take care of all your buddies, and it's like you scratch my back, I scratch your back, and you end up exploiting a lot of the middle class and the lower income people. You end up bringing in millions of illegals to take jobs at lower wages, thus shafting American workers. You do things like that. That's part of crony capitalism. And I think that one of the biggest problems that we have in our country today is the fact that people can't, separate the distinction between capitalism and crony capitalism. They are, crony capitalism is the perversion of capitalism. Real capitalism is what led to the growth and prosperity in the American economy. It's what people have lauded. It's why people will die to come to this country, because we are the only country that has a true capitalist system, as messed up as it can be at times. And I don't try to say that capitalism is perfect, but it is so far it's the best economic system that we've seen, that enables anybody from any background, any race, religion, creed, wherever, to basically come here, and you could start a business and you could become a millionaire. You could become a billionaire. There's nothing to stop you from doing it. Look at Elon Musk. Elon Musk is not from America. He was born and raised in South Africa, came here and became the world's richest man. He couldn't have done that in any other country in the world, but he could do it in America. And that's the point. That's the point of true capitalism. So conclusion and recommendations. So The Wealth of Nations is a masterpiece that birthed capitalism and fueled America's economic rise. It's ideal for readers interested in economics, history, or the roots of American prosperity, but it does require patience for its depth. You read it to understand the ideas that shaped a nation, alongside modern summaries for clarity. Yes, and I highly would recommend that people read this book. And I'm going to, at the end here, I'm going to do basically a comparison. So I have two other books here for you. So on the one side, you have The Wealth of Nations. On the other side, you have Das Kapital from Karl Marx. And you have the Communist Manifesto. These two things go together. I'm going to say that I'm going to be brutal in this assessment, but it is true. Okay. These are books for stupid people. This is a book for smart people. And that's, the Communist Manifesto, written on basically a 5th grade reading level, 100 pages of nonsense. Das Kapital, 200 pages of utter nonsense. You could read through this and it's just gibberish. 200 pages of gibberish. And I'm going to read you this little excerpt from the end of the Communist Manifesto here. So I'm going to read this to you. Marx Marx read Smith's influential treatise on markets and morals, as did many contemporaries of Smith, such as James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and Thomas Jefferson. Smith's overall perspective has triumphed historically, and yet his lengthy masterpiece is filled with sometimes difficult, archaic 18th century prose. True enough. Marx's short, snappy text is more accessible, and his vision of capitalism more global. I don't dispute that, but that is a nice way of saying when he says it's short, snappy text is more accessible. That's because it's written, like I said, on a 5th grade reading level, and it's a book for stupid people. And I hate to be that blunt in the assessment, but that's the truth of the matter, and that's how I feel about it. So again, The Wealth of Nations. It is dense. It is lengthy. It goes back because it was written 250 years ago, and it was it's a book that takes some time to get through, but it is a book written by an intellectual, basically for intellectuals. And if you want to really understand the American economy, and this is why our founding fathers latched on. Look at the geniuses that we had. We had James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, so many people that basically this is why they latched onto this, because they were all geniuses. They were all intellectuals, and they read this from Adam Smith, and they basically said, you know what, this book represents the American ideals. It represents the American morals, the American, the ingenuity, self-reliance, our concepts of innovation, not being chained down by the state or by the government, basically having free markets, being able to trade openly. Like this is what is at the very heart of this book, The Wealth of Nations. And this is why the capitalism, the underpinning of American economy, this is what has led to our prosperity for the last 250 years. So I highly, highly recommend you read The Wealth of Nations, take some time with it, absorb it. You will find that, again, all the things that are talked about in the book are relevant to this very day. And we're still having debates about a lot of this stuff to this very day. Do I maintain it's perfect? No, absolutely not. Nothing is perfect. Nothing is without its flaws. But I think it is absolutely fundamental to what is our country, what is America, and what makes America so great and prosperous. So I hope you give it a shot. I hope you give The Wealth of Nations a shot. And I hope you'll read it and love it the way I do, and thus getting a much deeper, better understanding of what true capitalism is, and not to be confused again with crony capitalism. So, but with that, I wish everybody a wonderful 4th of July. I hope everybody stays safe out there. I hope you have just a great weekend and rock it out and just have a great time out there. And I will hopefully see everybody again here real soon. And I will wrap up by saying, if you like this episode, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, as that always helps the channel. Remember, we are on YouTube, Rumble, and all major podcast platforms. Please be sure to leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear everybody's comments on this one. And as always, make sure to check out some of the other content on the channel. I hope everyone has a great holiday, and I will see everyone again real soon. Thanks a lot.